So I don't know where you're at on this, buddy, but when I see RISP, runners in scoring position, and this used to be just a regular stat. This used to be seeing WOBA on the page, WRC plus, and now I see runners in scoring position, and I get anxious. I feel like I'm going through some PTSD. What this Blue Jays team has done to that stat is weaponize it. They have weaponized it against Blue Jays fans. It is just such a dagger to look at what this team does as soon as they get a runner on second or third. It is absolutely mind-blowing because it's one of those stats that you would think, it's like most stats, right, buddy? Like, you'd think it would just even out if you have a big enough sample size. If you just give it enough time, all of the stuff will fall to the wayside and we'll just see what it should really be. And I'm at the point like, maybe this team's the least clutch team to ever play baseball. Like maybe that is actually where we're at this point. Like, dude, Chapman, Springer, Varsho, and Kirk. Okay, that's 40% of the Jays that have taken at bats with runners in scoring position. The batting average between those four guys, 204, an on-base percentage of 291, and a slug under 300, 289. Like, and if you look back on, I know I've just jumped right in here without even really a welcome or a hello.
Scott, I'm still on my first coffee here. I'm not ready for you with this weaponized RISP.
Hello and welcome everybody to the Walk Off. I'm Scott Belford, joined as always by the best co-host in the biz, Adam Mack. We have a big show for you today. Lots to get into. Obviously, we'll break down the Jays and Orioles series that just devastated us all. 3 studs and a dud, our weekly segment. Adam will take that one on. Davis Schneider, friend of the show, called up to the big leagues officially. You love to see it. We'll break down Davis Schneider's performance in AAA and kind of give you a preview of what you can expect. By the way, and I know we have been teasing this for some time now, but Davis Schneider did sit down with us earlier in the summer, and just an excellent interview. The guy is just such a fun dude to talk baseball with. That is literally up right now. So we're not teasing it, that it'll be out tomorrow or Wednesday. You can check out Davis Schneider's interview with us right now on YouTube and wherever you get your audio.
Jay Jackson, however, we sat down with yesterday, and you're going to have to wait for that one. Who knows?
Yes.
It's up on Patreon if you can't wait.
Yes, Patreon.
It'll be out probably early next week.
Chad Dallas is another one that we've got in the bank here that we'll get out probably in the next week here. We're trying to get our interview now that Adam's in his new place and settled in, and he's got his all his stuff in his house. I'm sure it's not unpacked yet.
Nothing
at
is
least
unpacked.
it's all under one roof, buddy. I'm sure that's very just at least you got that to hang your hat on.
Yes.
Yusei Kikuchi, buddy, the guy has been a complete godsend in 2023 to this Blue Jays team. So we'll kind of break down his numbers. And I've been compiling weird baseball stats. Like, just anytime I see something weird, I just kind of save it in my phone. And I was going over it the other day and I was like, I should share some of these ridiculous and kind of cool and weird out there stats. So we're going to have a weird stat baseball facts segment. And then we'll look ahead to the Red Sox and the Guardian series for this coming up week here. Okay. Jays versus Orioles.
Sorry, before we get on, can you hear all the garbage trucks outside? Should I go close my window, or are we good?
We're good. All I can hear is the air conditioning at full blast next to me. Can you hear the air conditioning?
I can.
As long as we're both a little distracted, but it's not being picked up, that's perfect.
Neither of us can hear it, but that's all our comments are going to be. It's like, yeah, you guys, we couldn't hear anything you guys said. It was just garbage trucks and air conditioning, just a slow grinding blow.
I got a kick out of when we were talking to Jay Jackson because there was like a bird or a squirrel or something for like 5. It was only for like 5 minutes. But it was going insane. Like, I don't know if someone was trying to take it out, but like, I was like, hopefully, and then it just went away. I know that Tuesday with Johnny, he's one of our Patreon members. Mish Beer mentioned it too. They're both like, hey, there's like something really going on in the woods behind him there, but yeah.
I think it was a Blue Jay.
Hey, nice. Okay, let's get into it now. I don't want to talk this Orioles and Blue Jays series because it was just another dagger. I don't know what it is with this team, dude. Like, I'm convinced at this point when it comes to the Orioles and the Red Sox, it's between their ears. Because listen, the Baltimore Orioles are a very good team and they just outplayed the Blue Jays. But this organization makes Baltimore look like they are a world beater, unbeatable, like for sure World Series champion. They are not, right? Like, this is not a team the Jays should be 2-8 against. I'd even accept it if they were 3-5, but like 2-8. It's just insane. They completely dominated this season series. The Red Sox are 0-7. Okay. And I know everyone talks, oh, the AL East, it's their Achilles heel, the AL East, the AL East. Listen, the record against the Yanks and the Rays isn't great, but it's 3-4. And we're not even halfway through we are just halfway through the regular season series. They could very easily go 4-3 against the Rays and the Yanks, and I think they probably will. I think that they just play those two teams a lot better for whatever reason, and I don't understand it. I know that the fan base doesn't understand it. Everyone has theories, but it's just been a complete nightmare to watch them against the Orioles, man. Like, so this is some of the stats that is pointing to the problem, and I think everyone kind of has already realized that just the team gets hits. They put runners on second and third, and then they completely faceplant. So Vlad, George, Alejandro, and Alek Manoah, they were worth 14.9 FWAR, wins above replacement, last year at this time. Even accounting for a 25% decline, they should still be worth like 11.1 wins above replacement. Instead, they're projecting to finish the season under 3. Ooh. 2.98 wins above replacement. Like, whether combined, you really value WAR or not, combined an under 3 WAR for Alek Manoah, Alejandro Kirk, George Springer, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. This was the backbone of 2021 and 2022. These 4 dudes literally carried the Blue Jays for multiple seasons and have now just ceased to exist pretty much.
That's bad.
It's very bad, man.
It's very bad. When I was doing my prep work for 3 studs and a dud, I saw season totals. Danny Jansen is 3rd on this team in home runs. He's only 2 behind Bo and Vlad with 15 home runs. He's played like 40 fewer games.
Home runs is another real big decline from this offense from previous years, right? 2018, dude, they ranked 5th in Major League Baseball in home runs. 2019, they ranked 9th. 2020, they ranked 8th. In 2021, they led all of baseball. Number 1 in home runs. 2022, they were 7th. This year, they're sitting at 15th. They're the middle of the pack. Like, honestly, dude, this is a roster full of superstars that is finishing 15th in team home runs, and a team consisting of Justin Smoke and Kendrys Morales ranked 5th in 2018.
I thought Vladdy was supposed to be better at home runs after the home run derby. It's tough. I don't know. It's tough, man.
And this is where we're all at, Adam. Like, you're trying to put words, you're trying to put reason to what is going on, and it just doesn't seem to make sense. You know, like, I know that there's folks out there that are saying things like George Springer is washed. And I mean, you watch him hit right now, and I know he's in one of the biggest slumps of his entire life. Mm-hmm. You know, he did go 35 plate appearances without a hit, which is, you know, he tied the Blue Jays record. Thank God for pitching and defense of this team, man. The only reason this team is still a playoff contender is because the pitching staff, which honestly, and I especially with how Barrios and Kikuchi performed in 2022, I'm sure that there's a lot of leeway here. But that said, if I'm a pitcher on the Blue Jays, I'm getting a little sick of the constant lack of production from the hitters. And I know ball players understand the ups and downs and understand slumps and stuff. So I'm sure there's no actual words being said. I'm sure words don't need to be said. These guys are aware of how poorly they are doing when there's
Don't we
a
just
runner
need
on
another
second or
players
third.
only meeting? Wouldn't that just solve everything? I say it in
Can we
full
have
sarcasm.
a fifth players only meeting? Can we? We'll leave it at this, and I'll turn to you for 3 studs and a dud. But man, there's 4 games left against this Baltimore Orioles team for the rest of the year, and thank God. I can't see this team getting past them in a playoff series. I
can. I totally can.
Yeah.
Just because they're young.
Yeah.
I could just see them totally shit in the bed. And that's my whole strategy.
It's a nice thought, Adam. It's a really nice thought.
Is that Bo comes back healthy. We meet someone handsome named September Vlad, who also gets hot. And then the Orioles are just like, oh, the moment's too big for us. And they just like,
yes, please.
That's the whole plan here.
This is the whole plan.
Really hoping the Orioles come through for us.
Really counting on an Oriole collapse here.
Hey, if playoffs started today, we have the Twins in the first round. Yes. I am okay with that.
Everyone is.
Even Alek Manoah is like, can I pitch?
Yeah.
And we're like, no.
No, you can't.
All right, 3 studs and a dud. You ready for this?
I am.
Drum roll, honorable mention for Danny Jansen, who hit another 2 home runs this week, but did it with a 158 batting average. All he does is
God forbid you put Danny Jansen in the 5 or 6 or the 4 or 5 hole. I don't understand where you're getting so little production out of the cleanup spot to not even try the one guy who consistently hits when there's runners in scoring position. I mean, I guarantee, dude, people are sick of hearing it out of me because I've been saying this for all season pretty much at this point. But you look at his numbers, he drives in runs. Like, look at his last 162. And I know that I was on Twitter and there was somebody who was like, when I brought it up, they said, well, the same thing's going to happen to Danny as happened to Dalton Varsho in that situation. But I so disagree with that. There is no proof at any point throughout Dalton Varsho's career that he's a run producer. There just isn't that proof. The numbers don't say anything. You find me a 10 game span of Dalton Varsho at any point in his career where it matches up, even on that tiny sample size, to what Danny Jansen has done over the last 162 games, which, if you are unaware, by the way, over the last 162 games, Danny Jansen has 34 home runs and an OPS over 900. Put him in the cleanup spot. It can't be worse than what's happening. But anyways, yes, good runner up.
So there we go. Stud number 3 with 2 1/3 innings pitched and 6 Ks. Trevor Richards in the bullpen.
The Silver Fox now on the IL.
Man, has he ever been good for us, though?
Boy, he has.
Stud number 2, another catcher by the name of Alejandro Kirk, also with 2 home runs, but he has a 357 batting average to go along with that.
Kirky is finally starting to show some life, and dude, thank the baseball gods above, because holy crap, the black hole that was his bat was just a dagger to the back of this offense.
It was tough. It was tough. Stud number 1, and I know we're going to spend more time on him a bit, but Yusei Kikuchi. One
So
earned
one
run over
win.
6 innings in our lone win versus Baltimore. 1.17 whip this week. Man, has he been good this year?
He has been so crazy good. He has been so crazy good. Should we skip Davis Schneider and go right into Yusei Kikuchi and come back, or would that mess up?
No, let's do that. It's fine.
Okay.
But let's do
Okay.
duds first.
Okay. Yes.
Dud.
Can't forget our duds.
Fortunately, our dud this week, George Springer.
And he could have been the dud last week, dude.
I know he's lucky I took a week off.
I gave it to Eric Swanson, and the more I think about it, the more I think that was a little unfair and probably should have gone to George Springer.
So George Springer did finally break his slump up with a 1-hit performance this week. Scored an RBI with it though, but batting average of 0.43 this week. That's not very good.
Man, the swing decisions that this team is making currently has been puzzling to say the least. Like these are gentlemen on this team too that if you look at their career, you look at their track records, this is so off the regular. Like even Vladdy is swinging at pitches that are just last year he wouldn't touch. And we were disappointed in last year, Vlad.
Yeah. I don't know what the right answer is.
I don't either, man. And it's at the point now where and we've talked about this before, everyone's calling for Guillermo Martinez's head. And I don't think that's the problem. But that said, maybe it's worth it. Just get a new voice in there. And this is the thing that everyone talks about, right? Like we know how baseball works. These guys are rich. They've all got their own hitting coaches and their own gurus and their dads on the phone every night. And, it's not like there's a lack of knowledge or training available to them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not solely resting on Dave Hudgens and Guillermo Martinez, the hitting instructor and hitting strategist. But at some point, you got to try something new. No,
yeah, I don't even know where to begin with. This team's just in such a disarray right now. What do you? Mm-hmm. Let's talk Yusei Kikuchi. Let's talk some good stuff.
And let's talk some good stuff. So obviously Yusei Kikuchi signed to a 3-year, $36 million deal last offseason. And in 2022, he was about the biggest disappointment on the team, eventually got pulled from his starting role, was stuck in the bullpen, and basically by the end of the season was just not even on the playoff roster. And on top of that was a non-factor. April and May, he surprised Blue Jays fans. Okay. 11 starts, 56.1 innings pitched, an ERA of 4.47, substantially brought down from last year's. He had 52 Ks, 19 walks, and was allowing 2.4 home runs over 9. And we all said we'll take that, right? First 2 months, we're like, you know what? Our number 5, all we wanted was a 4.5 ERA out of our number 5, and hopefully the boys can put up runs. Well, the boys haven't been putting up runs, but if you look at the track record of Yusei Kikuchi's career, he has performed well in the first 2 to 3 months of the season before. And everyone was kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'll tell you what, not only has the other shoe not dropped, but the guy has almost become twice as good as he was in April and May, which was still very serviceable. Since June 1st, in 11 starts, he has pitched 59 innings pitched. And listen, the fact that there's still a third of the season left and Yusei Kikuchi has given us 110 innings is big. Okay. It is huge. We're probably going to see him break his career high in innings substantially. He should push 150 to 160. So in his last 59 innings pitched, he has an ERA of 2.90, 15 walks. He's brought his walks down even further, and home runs per 9, 1.07. From better than 2022 early on to an entirely different guy the last 2 months, man.
Yeah.
He's been this year's Ross Stripling. Where would 2022 be without Ross Stripling in that rotation? And I think it's fair to say that almost to a T, that's been Yusei Kikuchi.
Yeah. It's
the only reason why we were able to lose our number one starting pitcher from 2022 in Alek Manoah, who has given us zero, given us nothing, given us one quality start in an entire season, and we're sitting here at August 3rd. Or 4th. Whatever day it is.
If Alek Manoah gave us the numbers that Yusei Kikuchi is having this year, if you told me Alek Manoah is putting up a 3.67 ERA, I probably feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, I would have been like, okay.
Disappointed for sure, right? Like, okay, not a Cy Young season, but like, those are really good numbers.
They're really good numbers.
Ryu returned this week.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts on Ryu as a big leaguer?
Honestly, I thought his outing was fine. Okay. I really didn't like them putting him back out in the 6th. I wasn't really sure what they were doing there. I understand that there was another lefty coming up and that's what they were trying to do, but I just, it's his first game back in 400. Like, think about that. 426 days since he's pitched in the big leagues. He goes out and looks a little shaky in inning 1 and 2, settles right in, gives them 85 pitches, 5 innings, and you're gonna push him?
Yeah. I
didn't like it. I think there's a lot more in Hyun-Jin Ryu. I know that there were some folks online who absolutely were like, DFA him. It's like, I don't know, were we watching different games? Because he really did seem like he was doing some really impressive stuff. His curveball looks mid-season form. He looks sharp. He looks concentrated. He looks like he's ready to go. He's in the best shape of his career. How can this team desperately needs a 6-man rotation for the next week over these 17 straight games that they're going through. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Where are you at on Ryu?
I guess my expectations were higher than I am proud to admit. I kind of wanted him to like step right in and be a little bit of a savior.
I know, me too. And
I know that's not fair.
No, it's not.
Whatever. It's one start. Ride or die with Ryu the rest of the way. Like, he's what we got.
Listen, the Orioles is a good team too. And to allow 3 runs in 5 innings, it's not great. It's definitely not great. But that was a very winnable game. It was 3-3 going into the 6th. I don't understand John Schneider's decision to go back to Ryu there, especially when you had some bullets to fire in the bullpen, but we can question management decisions all day long.
What do we have left for games? We have 50 games left.
I'm not sure where they're at.
We're at 110 games played. So we have 52 games left.
52 games remaining.
We have like 10 and a half starts or times through the rotation. Yeah, if you call it a 6-man, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Alek Manoah or Ryu, who's getting more starts?
I think it's Ryu, personally.
I think so too. Like, it has to be, right?
Alek Manoah has given me zero confidence. Again, like I brought up off the top there, I mean, he's provided one quality start. It's August 4th.
So there might be some growing pains with Ryu, but settle in, because
it can't be worse than Alek Manoah.
This is all we got. This is all we got. So
now, one thing I will give this team, and this is a good transition here into Davis Schneider talk, is they are trying something new. They brought up I wouldn't say he's their top prospect, but he's a top position player prospect.
He's their top prospect this year. But
yeah,
just in terms of results.
of results, I would say Davis Schneider's their top prospect in results in 2023. He is indeed en route to Boston per source. Of course, that source, friend of the show, Johnny G of Gate 14. He's, of course, buds with some of those Buffalo Bison dude, Jordan Luplow and Ernie Clement, I guess, were golfing yesterday when he hinted that Davis Schneider was getting called up. But glad to see Johnny G, by the way, is going to be a guest on our live long toss in Toronto, September 10th. Tickets for that are going quick. They are available. We'll throw them into the comment section here. Jay Jackson, Blue Jay pitcher in the bullpen. He is going to stop by as long as he's still with the team in September. He should be. We've got Blake Murphy of Sportsnet and Jays Talk Plus coming down. Julia Cruz, a good friend of the show and reporter for MLB.com. And then, of course, our long-standing veteran on Long Toss Baseball, Jen, is going to be there. So it is going to be fun. It's going to be at the Comedy Bar Danforth, September 10th. Get your tickets.
Boy, I miss one live show, and you're like, we need to pull out all the stops to make up for the lack of Adam. So I appreciate it. That makes me feel good.
When I only could book the Sunday, and I was like, I even told you, I'm like, I'm going to try and do a long toss. It's funny because I reached out to all these folks completely ready for them to be like, absolutely not. Do you know how busy I am? Why would I come play comedy with you? And every single one of them was like, I can't believe this. This is such a great idea. I love it. So anyways, awesome. Laying some good groundwork for when we go back in the spring, buddy, and we'll do it right then. Yeah. Okay, so Davis Schneider en route to Boston per source. Again, Johnny G is that source. He's not on the 40-man roster, so we're going to see what the shoe that drops is. The Blue Jays most likely going to need to DFA someone. Probably Ernie Clement is my guess. I don't know. We'll see.
I'm sure maybe by the time this goes up, there will be a decision made already.
There will be a decision made by the time this is up. Absolutely. And this is an amazing story, dude. This is very a Kevin Pillar story. This is the guy who.
Hold on. 19 minutes ago, they DFA'd Thomas Hatch.
Okay, there you go. So there's the answer. Thomas Hatch out. And Davis Schneider.
According to Sportsnet, Blue Jays add Schneider and Jay Jackson for the series versus Red Sox. Option Clement and DFA Hatch.
Okay, there you go. And again, this is a Kevin Pillar story. This Davis Schneider was drafted in the 28th round in 2017. He's kicked around the minor leagues for 6 years with the Blue Jays. And I mean, in the interview, he gets really into the first 3 years was tough, right? He just really couldn't get over that low A rung. And really 2021, he took massive steps. He went from Vancouver all the way to Buffalo by the end of 2022. The kid he's 24 years old. He plays second base. He plays third base. He's taken some reps at shortstop this year. He's taken some reps in left field this year. He's played some right field. He's a bit of a utility knife out there. He can do it all. And when you just look at what he's done offensively, you cross your fingers and hope that they give him an opportunity to actually play some baseball in the big leagues, because he's slashing 275 for his batting average, a on-base percentage of 416 and a slug of 553 with it an organizational leading 21 homers, which, by the way, is more in AAA than anybody has on the Blue Jays in the big leagues. And that's over 390 plate appearances. He also walks almost 20% of the time and strikes out 21%. So, you know what? A good little player here in Davis Schneider. And another interesting thing about Davis Schneider, Adam, that I thought I'd bring up that's kind of cool is he's perhaps the first big leaguer to be produced by the Jays since they improved the accommodations, pay, and nutrition. Remember last year, we were talking about how the Blue Jays were one of the first organizations to provide free lodging for all of their players, as well as a meal plan. Davis Schneider is a guy that really helped, right? These guys who got minimum bonuses, right? 28th round ball players, that's who really is benefiting from not needing to worry about paying rent or where their food's coming from, which is, has been a knock on minor league baseball for decades now, right? Is that if you're if you're not a prospect that's highly touted, you're living in poverty.
Just from a business standpoint, I don't know why you would want to throw hurdles at guys who are going to help you. Like, I don't know. To spend organizationally up to and above the luxury tax, but to be like, I'm going to save $1 million and not pay 120 minor leaguers. Like, come on. It just feels like, I know that like there's a bunch of duds in the minor leagues and you don't want to be throwing money on guys who will never pan out. Like, $1 million would cover the entire team, just at a reasonable, like you said, pay their rent, pay them so they don't have to. Just focus on baseball. Just get good.
Yes,
funny, right. If one turns out, you're like, well, that was a good investment, right? I don't know. It's just I still can't get over it.
You just love to see examples of it being beneficial for the organization. And Davis Schneider is a very good example of a dude who, who knows if he'd be here if it wasn't for providing that for him, right? Like the difference between making the big leagues and not making the big leagues is so fine that just better nutrition and not needing to constantly concern yourself with paying your rent could be enough to make that difference. So good on Davis Schneider. Very good on the Blue Jays for finally providing that extra help to these guys who maybe aren't the big bonus babies, getting those $1 million signing bonuses for when they're drafted, right? So good on them. Davis Schneider, check out that interview. It is up currently right now on the Walk Off YouTube and wherever you get your audio podcasts. How much rope do you think Santiago Espinal and even to a lesser extent Cavan Biggio get here? I know Addison Barger is honestly putting up home run numbers like he was last year. He missed a lot of the season with some injuries and struggled out of the gate, but he looks like the Addison Barger that we were all excited about in 2022 at the end of the season there. So Espinal, this is a stat that Chris Black brought up, and I'm not going to get too into depths with it. Sometimes we do that with Chris Black's threads because he's so thorough, but go check it out yourself at Down to Black, friend of the show, Chris Black, producer with Sportsnet. Another really great thread from him, but he was breaking down Espinal's defense. And this is kind of shocking, Adam, but you were one that even brought up earlier. You're like, what happened to Espinal's defense? He's been horrible. And your eye test is 100% correct, dude. So Santiago Espinal had an 87% fielding percentage the last 3 years. So he was an excellent defender, one of the better defensive shortstop / second baseman in baseball from 2020 to 2022. 3 years of a sample size. Care to take a guess where he ranks in 2023 percentile wise?
Percentile wise?
Knowing that he was 87 percentile the last 3 years up till 2023.
Sorry. Now, when we say this 87 percentile, you mean only 13% of middle infielders were better defensively than he was?
Yes. According to outs above average and
advanced metrics. I don't understand.
Yes.
Mid 40s.
8 percentile.
Whoa.
Right?
Oh my God, Scott.
So any value that Santiago Espinal had to this team, which was really based around his defense, don't get me wrong, all-star last year, he had some good moments with the bat, and he's still going to have some good moments with the bat, but he's very streaky, and when he's bad, he's really bad. Look at his numbers, right? But to go from 87 percentile to 8 percentile, and Chris Black really breaks it down in his thread. So again, I encourage you to go check that out at Down to Black. But one of the big things is that he says his foot speed is way down, and he's not making the difficult plays like he was the last few years. So there were plays he put up together the clips of all of the plays in a row from this year that would have been considered difficult. So last year at this time, plays that had a 60% chance or more of not being made, Santiago Espinal has made 1 this year. Last year he was at 12.
Eesh.
It's a pretty big drop. So I don't know how much more time they are going to give Santiago Espinal on a team that doesn't hit and is based around defense, right? Like if Santiago Espinal, everyone, when Bo Bichette was struggling in the beginning of the season, were literally like, put Santi at shortstop. He's so much better. And that was a correct assessment at the time. It sure isn't now.
So Bo Bichette versus Espinal errors. Who has more?
I don't know.
Keep in mind, Espinal has only played in, my math is bad here, 55 games this season.
And Bo's played in every single game up until he was injured last Thursday, pretty much.
Yes. So it is 106 games for Bo Bichette and 58 for Espinal. Who has more errors?
I'm going to go with Bo.
Yeah, it's Bo. But it's only 1 more error.
Wow. In
Bo
double
has
the games.
8 at shortstop. Espinal has 7. Which is 1 as a third baseman and 6 as a second baseman.
Pretty wild, man.
I can't even blame him though. Like when you're, I can blame him, and whatever. You got to be a professional, but when you're playing part time, you know, like that expression, mid-season form. How do you ever get into mid-season form? Like, you know, all the slack we're cutting Alejandro Kirk the first month of the season. Well, he missed training camp, like he missed spring training because he was doing the dad stuff, and of course he's not up to speed yet. You know, like he's still gotta get into game shape, and like, how do you do that when you're playing twice a week? How do you get in a rhythm? I don't get it.
You know how you get hot and you take the option of them keeping you out of the lineup out. I know that's just, I'm well aware that
it's like Mark Repchinski that we talked to last year, right? And he's like, I wasn't a lefty specialist until all of a sudden I became a lefty specialist. And then it was like, you don't face righties often enough to bring your numbers down. And when you do, there's so much more pressure because you're like, oh, if this guy gets a hit, my splits versus righties are going to get
week. Yeah.
So it's just with Espinal, I feel that every time he's out there, like he's uncomfortable.
Pressing. He's 100% pressing. And you know what? I do feel for him, man. But I think if Davis Schneider shows some promise here, it's Espinal's playing time that's up for grabs.
I fucking hope Davis Schneider actually gets to play this week.
Me too, man.
That's I will be one so frustrating thing that I've had with this front office loves to bring guys up to sit on the bench and just get a taste of the atmosphere. Like even like last year with Gabriel Moreno when we brought him up, just hanging out for most of the time. It felt like
most of the time.
So, anyways, Davis Schneider, yeah, I hope I don't know if we can move Whit Merrifield to the outfield full time, and I still like Dalton Varsho, but if he can be the best bench piece in baseball, pinch hitting, pinch running, late in games for us, pinch defense, and when we've got a 2-run lead in the 8th inning, throw him out there, but some offense out of second base.
We'll leave it at this. Just the fact that Biggio and Espinal are on a hot seat for the first time in some time. I think that with how well Addison Barger is doing in AAA currently, and with Davis Schneider's promotion today,
is Addison Barger doing good in AAA?
If you actually look at his numbers over the last 15 games, he is. His season numbers are obviously, I think he's got 6 home runs, but I think 5 of those are literally in the last like 3 weeks of playing ball. He was struggling out of the gate, and then he missed a chunk of May.
Looks like he has, in the last 16 games, a 242 batting average, an OPS 830. That's all right. 3 home runs, 10 RBIs in the last 16.
Yeah, he's hitting for power. His batting average hasn't been what it was the last year. But I really do believe that has to do with his injury and just kind of getting back to where he was. But
even 3 home runs over the last 16 games doesn't sound like much, but over a 162 pace, that's a 30 home run pace.
Yeah.
You're hitting a home run every 5 games. It's a 30 plus home run pace. So there you go. Okay, Addison Barger, hitting all right in AAA. Like you said,
keep
slow
pressing,
start,
Addy.
injuries riddled him, but you think he gets called up by the end of the season?
I do.
You do? Okay.
I do. Yeah. Okay, let's
and
move
he's on the
on.
40 man, correct?
That is a really good question. I don't think Addy is on the 40 man.
You start your next thing and I'll look back at the Blue Jays 40 man.
Okay, sounds good. So weird baseball stats and facts. I've got a little bit of a list here to go down. So I've been over the year. It's funny, whenever something funny or interesting comes up, go ahead.
He is on the 40 man.
He is on the 40 man. So they wouldn't need to clear a spot. So Addison Barger makes a lot of sense for a call up because they're not going to need to DFA anyone to do it. So yeah, so Addy should get.
Here's the list of our non-pitchers on the 40 man who are in the minor leagues right now. Tyler Heineman at catcher, that's an obvious one. Addison Barger, Ernie Clement, Leo Jimenez, Aurelvis Martinez, Nathan Lukes, and Spencer Horwitz.
Okay.
There you go. That's our drawing pool.
You're on it, bud.
I'm on it. Sorry to interrupt you. I told you to get going, and then right as you did, I'm like, stop.
It's perfect. Okay, so weird stats. Let's break this down. I was going through my phone the other day and I was like, why am I not sharing some of this? I squirrel it away for myself. I'm like, ooh, this is cool. No one else will know.
This is why you don't have as many followers on Twitter as Down to Black.
That's right.
He shares.
He cares and he shares, and I'm just storing it all for myself. So here we go. Weird facts. This one made me laugh. Okay. So Dalton Varsho was born 9 months and 1 day after his dad Gary's final MLB game. Gary Varsho's final game was October 1st, 1995. He went home and high-fived his wife, and then 9 months and 1 day later, Dalton Varsho was born July 2nd, 1996. Okay. Second weird stat. In this season, Domingo Germán has been suspended for sticky stuff, given up 10 runs in a start, thrown a perfect game, been placed on the restricted list for alcohol abuse. What a season. Okay, number 3 weird stat. Back in 1963, San Francisco Giants manager Alvin Dark joked that pitcher Gaylord Perry's hitting ability was so poor that they'll put a man on the moon before Gaylord Perry hits a home run. Perry's first home run came July 20th, 1969, 20 minutes after Neil Armstrong first set foot on the moon.
That's wild.
Isn't that weird?
20 minutes later, you just lost out. Oh my God. That's hilarious, actually. That's really good.
Okay. This next one I really like because it does put in perspective how elite and how wild it is to play Major League Baseball. So since Major League Baseball's inception in 1876, there have been a total of 23,000 guys to actually play a game in Major League Baseball. So if you break that down over the last 160 years, 150 years, I guess, of baseball, there is still less people who have played Major League Baseball than can fill a stadium in Major League Baseball. Davis Schneider, getting the call up today, is in a very, very elite group. 23,000 people. That's nothing. It's wild. Less than a stadium. Okay, number 5, weird stat here. Aaron Nola of the Philadelphia Phillies has thrown over 10,000 fastballs in his career. 9 of those have been 96 miles an hour or faster.
I know this one.
Three of those pitches has been against his brother Austin Nola. So gets a little bit more amped up when he's facing his brother.
Yeah.
Just a kind of really weird out there fun stat. And lastly, what would a list of stats be without bringing up Shohei Ohtani? So Shohei Ohtani, just the other day, is the 3rd player since 1900 with a home run, a stolen base, and a scoreless pitching outing in the same game, joining pitcher extraordinaire Pablo Sandoval and Christy Mathewson from 1905. So we all know the giant panda, but I've never heard of the other guy.
But how many have in a doubleheader pitched a complete game shutout and then in game 2 hit 2 home runs? I think that's only Shohei. And I think that's pretty darn good.
Yeah, that's just a Shohei stat. That is nobody else, just a Shohei stat. You know what, man? I know that this wasn't on the show notes, but I did wish to just get your opinion on Anthony Rizzo. Have you heard?
Oh, yeah. I hate this whole story.
This whole thing is absolutely disgusting. The Yankees should be incredibly fucking ashamed of themselves. They should be taking a look inwards. Medical staff people should be getting fired. Aaron Boone should be getting fired. Like, it's just crazy. So if you've missed it, Anthony Rizzo, the Yankees first baseman, has been put on the 10-day injured list with a post-concussion syndrome, which the club believes, now listen to this, was from May 28th in a collision with Fernando Tatis Jr. Literally, like, this test reveals signs of cognitive impairment for Anthony Rizzo. Like, this is shit that could literally be long-term consequences to playing through a concussion. So Anthony Rizzo said when he was interviewed about this, he says he noticed he was far more tired, but attributed it to the grind of the season. And he mentioned older. Waking up. He mentioned waking up feeling hungover every day and occasionally forgot the number of outs while playing in a game. How the frick is this not a red flag?
All right. Is this, whose fault is this? I know, like, you want everybody fired over it.
I mean, listen, maybe I'm going overboard, but this is like a really big deal, man.
It's really big, but if he passes concussion protocol, like, initially,
what else can you do? Did he?
Well, if he didn't, sure, then that's a whole nother big scandal. But
listen, players are always going to push to play. And I think in a scenario like this with Anthony Rizzo, when he failed concussion protocol, and that is the big part of this story, failed concussion protocol, he missed 7 days. And then, yes, obviously he probably would need to pass a concussion test. But to not look deeper into this, I just can't wrap my head around it. And really, maybe I am being dramatic and jumping off the deep end here, and stuff like this does happen all the time. But
as much as, like, I'm disgusted by the story, just from like for real, brain injuries are like no joke.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, just as a guy who's getting older myself and my reflexes have slowed down, like, I never wore a helmet when I rode my bike ever.
Mm-hmm.
I've started wearing a helmet now. I feel like a dork, but I wear a helmet on my bike because I just don't trust my reflexes to like put an arm out in time and like
Yeah.
save my head, right? And like
Yeah.
brain injuries are for real life changing. When I pitch in slow pitch, I wear a face mask because like
Hmm.
I got hit a couple times last year in the belly that I couldn't get my glove up for. And I'm just like, oh yeah, next year I'm getting a helmet because if that was at my head, I'd be fucked.
Yeah.
So like brain injuries are no joke, but also because concussions are so common in sports, I can't I don't want to give the Yankees any slack here, but like if they put him through the tests and at some point he's cleared to play, that's like why would you second guess it? Like I would assume that he's not being public about his concerns. Like if he does feel hungover every morning and he does feel
Yeah.
sluggish and slower, like that's not something that you want to just volunteer that information. So if he's
No.
not, like,
Although if
I
you
don't
look
know.
at Anthony Rizzo's numbers, he's been a completely different player since that point. And I'm with you. Maybe I'm gonna just say I was being a little too harsh there. Probably it's just like when it comes to players' health, it gets me so worked up when it feels like there's negligence.
We need Garth on here to just argue
Yeah,
with
burn them
us. And
down.
come on, Garth.
Come
Yeah,
back,
I don't know.
Garthy.
It's I
Would
re-
love to hear the grounds crew's opinion on this. Does this fall on the Yankees medical staff? Is this on Rizzo's shoulders? Is there blame to be put, or is this just an unfortunate situation that just slipped through the cracks? I would love to hear everyone's opinion on this.
I admittedly don't have the full story either. So
Hmm.
it could turn out that over the next days, as more details come out, that this is just a selfish, greedy Yankee cover up and that
Yeah.
everybody does deserve to be fired. That is totally possible here.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Anyways, I know it wasn't on the show notes, and it was just one that like I was reading about today this morning, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'm surprised how much it bothered me. Like
Yeah.
normally when something bad happens to the Yankees, I'm like, hey, Nelson from Simpsons.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but all the best to Anthony Rizzo. Honestly, I hope that he completely recovers and that he can get back some of the memory and stuff that he has missed. Because he even said he's like sometimes I feel like I've forgotten how to play this game, and it would just be so frustrating. It's so crazy that like he didn't know what was wrong, and then they're like, "Oh, you're suffering from a severe brain injury." Like,
Yeah. Well,
okay, let's wrap up.
that would be like it would be terrifying news to receive, but if there's any silver lining, it's that tomorrow he'll wake up and forget all about it. All right.
Okay,
Wishing you
let's
a
wrap up.
speedy recovery, Anthony Rizzo.
Yes. Let's wrap up on this. The Boston Red Sox, the Blue Jays' next opponent here. They head to Fenway. They are currently 0-7 against this team, and a win is imperative. I mean, the Red Sox now nipping at the heels of the Blue Jays for this final playoff spot. The pitching lines up as such today. Alek Manoah taking the mound against Maple Ridge, BC native James Paxton. And
Hey.
then it's going to be Jose Barrios on Saturday, Chris Bassett on Sunday versus TBA.
Ooh, love TBA.
So two possible bullpen are openers in this series for the Red Sox. The Blue Jays are primed to take this series. They really should. Now, whenever the Orioles come to town, it just freaking any momentum or any feelings of positivity tend to get washed away, and that's kind of where we're at right now after only taking 1 out of 4 against the Orioles. But man, they've got a, for lack of a better term, nut up. This team has got to find whatever it is and battle some wins out against this Red Sox team, because they cannot afford to lose this series, let alone, God forbid, get swept. Like, we're in it now. This is the thick of things, and this team better show some intestinal fortitude and show up.
Next 15 games before we go back to Baltimore, we got the Red Sox for 3, the Guardians for 4, the Cubs for 3, Phillies for 2, and the Reds for 3.
And listen, these are good teams that they're
10 and
facing.
5.
But yeah, they're not great teams. And if you look at this Blue Jays record against teams outside of their division, the best in baseball. So yeah, I mean,
10 and
it is
5
not,
feels like the low water mark that I can expect here.
I would not call this a soft schedule over the next little bit, but it's definitely a very winnable and making hay type of window here for the Blue Jays.
Gotta start making some progress here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Of the Orioles now for the lead in the AL East, losing 2 games over this 4-game series to them. The Red Sox only a game and a half back of the Blue Jays. So yeah, they need some wins here. So hopefully Alek Manoah can start things off well and get himself back on track. His last outing wasn't great, but wasn't horrible. He got the win. Or if he didn't get the win, the Jays won that game anyways. I forget how that played out, but nonetheless. And then 4 against Cleveland at Progressive Field to wrap the week up. Let's win some games.
Win some games. Go Jays, go.
Thank you, everyone, for following along. We really appreciate the patronage. To all you in the grounds crew, a tip of the hat. Feel free to hit the like button. Feel free to subscribe if you have not. Very helpful too, even if you're watching on here on YouTube and you've never gone to the audio side of things. If you just go to where you get your audio podcast and hit subscribe, it actually helps us substantially on both ends. Davis Schneider, that interview out right now. You can catch it on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you very much, everybody. Long toss on Sunday. Adam's running it alone, but it's going to be a doozy. It's going to be a good one wrapping up this Red Sox series. Take care, everybody. Cheers.